Thank you for checking out our podcast today. We hope that the teaching you're about to hear would inspire you and motivate you on your incredible journey in becoming a better you. So please turn your attention to today's message.
Jesus is adamant about the work that's going to take place where? Where? In the heart of all mankind. Some man? All mankind. Jesus' time here on earth was to inform humanity, to inform the world that there was going to be a major shift. There was going to be a major change that was going to occur with his coming here on earth, with his death, all right, and then with his resurrection. All of these things were actually going to be the precursor to what was about to happen here on earth for all humanity. So Jesus is talking to his followers, and as Jesus is talking to his followers, in the midst of these followers, there was a group of people that weren't his followers. They were just kind of lingering because they wanted to trap Jesus speaking something ill so that they could accuse him. You got me? So these guys were called Pharisees, and also teachers of the law. And these guys had gotten a bit critical because they saw that Jesus and his followers were eating and they hadn't washed their hands. So they saw that Jesus is eating, his disciples are eating, and they didn't wash their hands. And because they saw that they didn't wash their hands, they started to be critical. So the disciples were eating with dirty hands, and then the guys start getting critical. Kind of like when I was wearing shorts on a Sunday, and Luis and Hector got critical because I was wearing shorts to church. So it was the same thing. I'm not calling Hector a Pharisee. I said I didn't call you that. But I was wearing shorts, and it was like... So these guys were criticizing the disciples, and Jesus replied this. This is what Jesus said in the book of Mark, chapter 6, verse 7. I love the way he always starts his conversations. You. Isn't that awesome? Isn't that beautiful? How? Isn't that the love of Christ? Just it rolled out of his tongue. You hypocrites. So exclamation mark. You hypocrites. Isaiah was right when he prophesied about you. For he wrote, these people honor me with but their hearts are far from me. Their worship is a farce. It's fake. For they teach man-made what? Ideas. As commands from God. He doesn't stop there. Jesus continues his assault in verse 15. It's not what goes into your body that defiles you. They were concerned about them not washing their hands. That's not what goes into your body that defiles you. You are defiled by what comes from your heart. Next. He doesn't stop there. I'm going to skip a couple verses. For from within, out of a person's heart, come evil thoughts, sexual immorality, theft, murder, adultery, greed, wickedness, deceit, lustful desires, envy, slander, pride, and foolishness. All these vile things come from where? Within. From where? Within. They are what defile you. And then he goes back into eating his chicken wings. Now, the heart of man becomes the focal point of the work and the aim of the new covenant. Somebody say new covenant. New covenant. It becomes the focal point of the New Testament or pact. It's a pact, a covenant, okay? All of those things. And all of these things are between God and man. So Jesus is telling those guys, and he's telling us today, that long gone are the days and the ways of a sacrificial system, the mobile tent, the tabernacle, Ark of the Covenant, the temple, the priests, the tablets. But most importantly, long gone are those days of the law. Long gone. No more law. Now, the work that God would be doing would no longer be one that would require a sacrifice, would no longer require you to go into a temple, to go see a priest, to go take an offering, to go sacrifice. Those days are gone, because the work that he was going to be doing was going to be a personal work of the heart. Because all that you would be required to do is one thing. One thing. Somebody say, believe. Now, what do we need to believe? It's a big question. Jesus knew that what people believed in their hearts would have a detrimental effect. It was going to have ramifications or consequences. So, what did Jesus say to those who believed in him? What did he say? So let's go to John chapter 8, verse 31, 32. We'll read this together. Jesus was saying to those Jews who had believed in him, this is what he said. If you continue in my word, then you are truly disciples of mine. And you will know the truth, and the truth will set you free. So then why do we have so many churches that are still in bondage? He says, you're going to know the truth, and when you know the truth, you're going to be what? Free. You're going to be what? Free. You're going to be what? Free. But many churches are still in what? Bondage. What Jesus is telling the followers was a dangerous message in those days, more so than now. What I'm saying to you right now, it's very dangerous, because I know it's going to mess with your doctrine. It's going to mess with your upbringing. It's going to mess with everything that you have learned. I get it. I know it. Jesus is confronted with this himself. Jesus is saying, all that stuff is in the past. What Jesus is saying, he's literally becoming a target to these people by calling his words truth. And that's what he was saying. He was saying, listen, if you continue in what? My word. You will know the what? Truth. With what Jesus is doing, he is placing himself above Moses. He's placing himself above Jewish law, which many people still like to quote and follow. He's putting himself above that covenant. What is Jesus doing? What is Jesus doing? And we're going to develop this. You got to come back next week. I can't give it all to you today. You got to come back next week, because it's going to get real creepy in a good way. All right? It's going to get real creepy. Like, what are you saying? Jesus is unhitching the people from a belief system that they had upheld for over 1,500 years. The people of Israel only knew one way, and that was through offering sacrifices, coming yearly for a moment of atonement with a sacrifice, and it was bloody, it was messy. They had to follow stringent laws, guidelines for every little thing. They were so intricate that even with eating, they had a methodology into their eating. They had to eat certain foods and certain things. It was so intricate. Not only that, but even hygienic. Even with the way they washed. Everything had a ceremony. And all of this is part of a covenant. And Jesus is saying, no more sacrifices, no more Ark of the Covenant, no more priests, no more temple, no more Moses. Most importantly, no more law. Ay, ay, ay. To the Jews, this is blasphemous. Even though what Jesus is speaking is actual truth. The people of Israel didn't know what and how to deal with this self-proclaimed Messiah that is now making himself higher than all that they have ever known. Imagine me coming here on a Sunday, Dr. Gladys, and saying, guys, for the Easter holiday this year, in 2020, we're not going to celebrate Palm Sunday. We're not going to celebrate. Where's Ruth? Where's Ruthie? Ruthie, come here, Ruthie. Because she has a facial expression that speaks. And I'm going to put her on blast. Because Ruthie has a very subtle way of saying yes and no. Okay. No, she doesn't have to. No, she's going to speak with her face. Can't amp the face. Listen. So just imagine I'm just going to call you Dr. Ruth. Wrong doctor. Dr. Gladys. Ruth. And I want you to, Ruthie, I want you to express what I'm about to say. But imagine that I say we're no longer celebrating Palm Sunday. We're no longer doing Good Friday. Easter, out the window. We're not doing that anymore. And hey, by the way, we're going to scratch Christmas. Christmas is out the window. We're going to celebrate Joseismas. For now on, what we're going to celebrate is Joseismas. So you're going to say, Merry Joseismas. Every year when you come here from 2020 and on, you're going to celebrate me. Okay. Doctor, what do you say? No way. Okay, have a seat. Now, you don't think that's powerful? This woman held down 300 people. A year ago, we had a function, 300 people, and she just sat there and was like, going. Because people wanted to sit where they, you know what I'm saying? There are assigned seats, and this is where, but you tell people, and she just sat there and was like, people didn't know what to do. They just didn't know what to do with that. Yeah, they didn't know. And she's like, Dr. Gladys, you won't be okay with that. No. Well, can you imagine these people? Jesus is saying, scratch that. It's all about me now. Sounds crazy, doesn't it? Well, Jesus isn't crazy. Jesus is here on earth telling a people who knew one way, all right, one way based on over, again, 1,000 years, almost 1,500 years of history. Guys, I'm going to give you something new. See, the work of the law, its temple, the priest, its sacrificial system, they dealt with people as a whole. In that time, in that covenant, in that time, we would all be punished for what Denise did. That was that system. So Denise got out of hand, and there would be a wrath, there would be a price to pay based on that covenant, because God was dealing with a people, not individuals. He was dealing with a people. So if Robert got out of hand and he messed up and he was doing some stuff behind the scenes, then we would lose potential enemies and, wars, because somebody in the camp was sinning. So everything had to do with a people. Say a people. Come on, say a people. And that's what the ministry of that time dealt with. It was a nation, it was a people. But Jesus is saying, I'm doing something different, something new. Okay, and I can see it in your brows the way you're looking at me like, uh-oh. Jesus is saying, this is going to change. I'm now going to deal not with the people as a nation, but I'm going to deal with people as individuals in the realm of the heart. Did you catch that? In the realm of the what? Heart. Okay. So in another, anybody remember the show Wild 'N Out with Nick Cannon? Yeah? Heathens. And in this show with Nick Cannon, there would be two parties, right? And they'd go at each other. Yeah, they'd go at each other. And who could insult who? And then you have the judges, and people would be like, ooh. Well, guess what? This is the same stuff that's happening with the Pharisees and the experts of the law. I mean, they're testing Jesus at every juncture of his ministry. They're testing Jesus to see if they can catch him, if they can trap him. And in one of these experiences between religious leaders and experts of law, they were trying to entrap Jesus with complex questions. And one of them goes, all right, my turn. And he asked Jesus, what is the most important commandment? Just like people are always asking me, hey, what's the most important, like what sins can't we do? Because people always want a list of the stuff that we can do. Why? Because we want to live on the edge, right? And I go, it's really not a sin if I do it this way. So he's asking Jesus, what is the most important commandment? Well, Jesus replies in Matthew 22, verse 37, 40. Check it out. Jesus replied, you must love the Lord your God with what? All your heart. Some of your heart. All your heart. Just a part of it. All your heart. All of your heart, all of your soul, and all of your mind. And he goes, this is the first and greatest commandment. Whoa. But then he takes it a step further. He goes, a second is equally important. What's he saying by equally? It's the same. He goes, a second is equally important. He says, love your neighbor as yourself. And then, listen to what he tells these people. Listen. All these people. He says, the entire law and all the demands of the prophets are based on these two commandments. So he grabs, guys, listen, over 613 commandments. God gives them 10. Nah, we don't need 10. We need 600. These guys blow up and they have over 600 commandments. And you know what Jesus goes? Out of 600 of those commandments, I can grab all 600. I can grab from those 600, grab 2 of them. Everything is summarized in just 2. And guess what? Those 2 now are equally what? 1. What is he saying? He reduced it to this. Love God wholeheartedly. Love your neighbor as yourself. What? Are you understanding what Jesus is doing to these people? And everybody like Nick Cannon and all those guys are going, ooh. Now, this isn't the only time that Jesus says this. In fact, Jesus makes these 2 commandments, he makes them an ongoing campaign. It's an ongoing campaign of what he was doing and what he was introducing. I want you to come back next week because this is just part of it as I transition into some of the other heavier stuff I'm going to give you. And he used this as the standard to be called his disciple. Okay, except that he modified it a bit because he wanted to take it up a notch. Are you guys following me this morning? Are you sure? All right. Right before Jesus is arrested and he's taken away and eventually he's put to death, Jesus is with his disciples and he's having the Last Supper and he waited for Judas to leave the room. Judas leaves the room and he says, guys, in John chapter 13, quickly, John 13, 34, 35. So now I'm giving you a what? I'm giving you a what? I'm giving you a what? Hey guys, do you understand that the commandments were given by God himself? And Jesus is that's I'm going to give you a new commandment. Could you guys imagine if I came here on a Sunday, Dr. Gladys, can you imagine how crazy that would sound? Wouldn't it sound crazy if I said from now on, everybody is going to have, blue hair? And that's the new, why? Because blue is a symbol of royalty or the sky or something. That's the new thing. You guys would think it's crazy. Listen to what Jesus is using this language with his disciples. He says, I'm going to give you a new commandment. However, this new commandment sounds very similar. Love each other just as I have loved you. You should love each other. Your love for one another will prove to the world that you are my disciples. Can I say this again? And listen, I'm not being condescending, but I just need to point this out because some of us think that it's what we wear, what we eat, what we celebrate, what we don't celebrate, how we do it, how we don't do it. That's what makes you a disciple. What we give, what we don't give, all of those things. Now, this is what Jesus said. And people have a problem with this. Your what? Love. Your what? Love. Love. How complicated is that, guys? Guys, how complicated is that? But it's not enough for us. Why? Because we need more. What do we need? I need more law. I need more of that. He goes, no, whoa. What I'm doing is new. This is a new commandment. That's all you have to do is what? Prove what? To the world that you're my disciples. How do we prove it? 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 Love what? One another. Yeah, but he made it new. It was a little different. Robert, stand over here with me real quick. See, the first time, give me a hand, bro. And this is love. Don't get it twisted. This is love. I'm happily married.
So am I.
All right, so listen. So remember when he grabs the expert of law and he was asking him about what was the most important commandment? Did you guys remember? What did Jesus say? Hey, I could grab all of those commandments and I could sum it up into equally. What did he say? What did he say? It says, love God with all, heart, soul, mind. And then he said what? He said what? But why does this become new? Why did he say, I'm going to give you a new commandment? And if you listen to the commandment here, it's the very same commandment, isn't it? Isn't it the same one? Come on, guys, wake up. Isn't it the same one? Huh? Is it the same one? No, it's not. He changed it. He changed it. Because he goes, I'm going to give you a new commandment. I want you to love each other. How? He changed the standard. He changes the standard. He goes, what I'm going to do is new. Now, instead of loving your neighbor as you love yourself, don't do that. Scratch that. Caca, fuera. Okay, have a seat. I'm going to do something different. The new standard that will show the world that you are my disciples is that you love one another just as, come on, wake up. Just as I loved you. Does that change everything? Yo, does that change everything? Does that change everything? Jesus, listen, I can't rely on how Robert loves as a standard. Listen to me, that's very interesting. My standard isn't good enough. Why? Because I'm a little flawed. I could be partial at times. Because I know none of you are, right? None of you guys are partial ever to anything. No. Well, guess what? So he goes, No more are you going to love your neighbor as you love yourself, but now you're going to do so as I love you. Now, what was his standard? To the point of death. Somebody say, ow. Jesus, once again, is now putting himself above everything else. Jesus is putting himself as the maximum authority, the maximum standard. The world is going to know that you all are my followers, you are my disciples solely by loving your fellow man, but you're going to do it the way I've loved you. Don't that change everything? Because then you can't hold grudges. Because I know nobody here has ever held a grudge, right? We're quick to forgive. I know that you are all quick to forgive. Yes, you're people full of mercy, I know. I'm telling you, that's hard. Jesus makes himself the standard. By the way, Jesus was clear from the moment he was on earth and from the moment he had a group of followers. He always made sure that he said, I only speak the words that I've heard from the Father. I only do my Father's will. So when Jesus is talking and he is placing himself and he is unhitching some old ways, who's approving this? Who's approving it? Dad, God himself. He's approving it. Now this changes everything. Matthew 28, 18 to 20. Jesus, as he is establishing his ministry and he is sending out his disciples. Listen, his disciples are completely different than any other. His disciples, this is the standard. This is the standard. Jesus came and he told his disciples. What did he tell his disciples? I have been given what? Some authority. Some authority. Some, because the temple is still there. The commandments are all there. The ancient ways are all there. And you're going to follow me sometimes, but if it starts to merge or converge with some of the old stuff, then we have to give in because it's God's word, it's God's way, and that was a covenant. No, that's not what he's doing. He said, all authority, listen, where? In heaven and on earth. Where does he have authority? Guys, do you understand the implications of what this man is saying in that era? There is no authority higher than Moses, the law, the priests, the temple, Ark of the Covenant, the tablets. He is saying, all authority has been given to who? To me, in heaven and on earth. Then he goes, therefore, go and make disciples of some of the nations, like the Mexicans, the Puerto Ricans. Huh? What does it say there? All right. So don't ever get high and mighty because you are of a certain pigmentation. Ever. Because your last name happens to be attached to that line. Don't ever do that. Therefore, go and make disciples of all nations. Listen to the standard. Baptizing them in the name of the Father, Moses, the temple, the covenant, the old covenant, and the, what's he saying? The name of the Father, Son, Holy Spirit. Boom, boom, boom. That's it. I said this 2 weeks ago. Puerto Ricans have this thing when something is final, you tell your kids, you go, yeah. Yeah. You didn't even say one word. You just said, yeah. Ingrid. teach these new disciples to obey all the commands. Come on, guys, read it there. So what the heck are we doing in our churches? Teaching all this. All the commands that I have given you. And be sure of this. And I'm going to be with you always, even to the end. And I love that because what he is saying is there will never be another change. This is it. Michael Jackson, remember Michael Jackson? This is it. I promise. This is it. Well, this is what he's saying. This is it. That was a bad impression of Michael Jackson. But that's what he said. He said, this is it. Sorry to embarrass your guests. But when Jesus says all, he means all authority. He means do what I say. This is a game changer, guys. This changes everything. The Father now makes Jesus, the Son, the authoritative figure above everything else. Yeah, Moses was a cool guy. Yeah, that was all nice. That was all beautiful. Guess what? Next. Some people have a problem with that. Philippians chapter 2, verse 9 to 11 says this. Therefore, God did what? God elevated him to the place of what? Of what? There is no pastor, no apostle, no prophet, no evangelist, no teacher, no priest. I don't care, no prophetess, no mime ministry, no Levites, and all of the pantomime ministry. Nothing is equal. Nothing. God elevated him to the place of what? Highest honor, and he gave him the name above all other names, that at the name of who? Jesus. Who? Jesus. Who? Jesus. Why not Abraham? He could have Moses could have been there. I had a great time to put that in there. That at the name of Jesus, some knees shall bow. Every knee shall bow in heaven and on earth and under the earth, and every tongue confess that Jesus Christ is Lord to the glory of God the Father. Rock, come here again. Come on, Christian. You haven't been here in a month. You could do something. Yes, you, Christian. Yeah, come on, Christian. Come here. Listen, guys. Listen. Listen. And this is important. And the reason this is important is because we allow churches in this season, in this time, to manipulate, to control, all based on things that Jesus said, that's old stuff. I don't know why you guys are still doing that. Hold that. Hold this. Hold it out. Stretch it out. Stretch it out. Make it taut. Okay. And what I'm saying is when we look at the scriptures that we have been given, okay, what we see is this timeline. And in this timeline, okay, we have Moses, we have the law, but we have something called Old Covenant. Old Covenant. I need somebody to go to Jeremiah 31 in your Bibles, because I know you guys still carry Bibles, because if you don't carry Bibles on a Sunday, you die. Can I get a microphone, Bubble? Jeremiah 31. Quickly, so we can end, and you can go home and eat your hot dogs and your burgers. And okay, who's got it? Jeremiah 31. Who's got it? You have it? Tabby, you have it? Let me hear. Tab, what do you have? Give me first verse 1.
At that time declares the Lord, I will be the God of all the families of Israel,
Uh-huh.
and they will be my people.
Uh-huh.
This is what the Lord says.
Uh-huh. Keep on.
The people who survive the sword will find favor in the wilderness.
Skip.
I will
Next one.
come.
Go to the next verse.
The Lord appeared to us in the past saying,
Skip.
Okay. I have loved you with an everlasting
Skip.
love. I will build you up again
Skip.
and again.
Skip.
And there will be a day when watchmen cry.
Skip.
This is what the Lord says. Sing the joy for Jacob.
Skip.
See, I will bring them from the land of the north.
Skip.
They will come with weeping.
Skip.
Hear the word of the Lord, your nations proclaim it in the distant coastlands.
Skip.
For the Lord delivered Jacob and redeemed them from the hand of those stronger
Skip.
than them.
How many more verses do you have there?
I'm at 15.
Oh, go.
Okay. Restrain your voice from weeping.
Skip.
I have surely heard Ephraim's moaning.
Skip.
Set your road signs.
Skip. Skip.
How long will you wander?
Skip.
This is what the Lord Almighty, the God of Israel, says. When I bring them back from captivity, the people in the land of Judah and in its towns.
Skip.
And
How are you looking?
26.
Okay.
At this I awoke and looked around. My sleep had been pleasant to me.
Go ahead.
The days are coming, declares the Lord, when I will plant the kingdoms of Israel and Judah with offspring of people and of animals.
Keep on.
Just as I watched over them to uproot and tear them down and to overthrow, destroy and bring disaster, so I will watch over them to build and plant, declares the Lord. In those days people will no longer say, the parents have eaten sour grapes and the children's teeth are set on the edge.
Keep on.
Instead, everyone will die from their own sin. Whoever eats sour grapes, their own teeth will be set on edge. The days are coming, declares the Lord, when I will make a new covenant.
Okay,
with
stop.
the people.
Stop. Now, verses before that, he goes into saying there was a time. There was a time that whatever you did, your children were going to pay for it. Whatever you did, then where's Melody? You pay for it, like your hair would fall off or something like that. Why? Because Gladys jacked up. She messed up, and it was all there was. So everything was punitive because of what your family did. Okay, you inherited that. But now he goes, This day is coming. Continue to read, and then I'm going to. Go ahead.
It will not be like the covenant I made with
It will not what?
It will not be like the covenant
It will not what?
It will not be like the covenant I made with your ancestors when I took them by the hand to lead them out of Egypt because they broke my covenant.
Stop. And this is the problem, is that we are so invested in the Old Testament and everything that's in the Old Testament. And so what we do is, because of this whole timeline and what we have in Scripture, so here we have from Moses, from Genesis to Exodus, all the way over here to Revelation, right? And so everything that's there is applicable, okay, to us all the time, always. Why? Because it's in the Word. Read. But he said that there's going to be, I'm going to give you a what? A new what? Covenant. People love the old stuff. In fact, we do communion every Sunday in many churches, and we do this communion. And what is the wine about? What is the wine about? Come on. Blood. It is the what? The blood. Of his what? It's a reminder. It's the blood in my new what? Jesus is telling his disciples, it's a new covenant. It's new. I'm sorry, I'm yelling. I get so animated about that stuff. And you know why I get animated? Because of the abuse on the backs of people, especially women. All because of just some ignorance of not being able to understand. And I got to hold on to the old. Keep reading. Oh, it's a good one. Oh, Tabitha said it's a good one. Excuse me, everything else was, yeah, let me share it. But this one is good. Go ahead.
I will put my law in their mind.
What?
I will put my law in their mind.
It's going to be in the pastor's mind. It's going to be in the prophet's mind. It's going to be in the apostle's mind. That's where it's going to be. Where's it going to be? Shh, go ahead, read it.
And write it on their hearts.
Where?
And write it on their hearts.
Where? Here? It's here, guys.
I will be their God, and they will be my people. No longer will they teach their neighbor or say to one another, know the Lord, because they will all know me, from the least of them to the greatest, declares the Lord. For I will forgive their wickedness and will remember their sins no more.
So he is saying he's going to establish a new covenant. And this covenant, he's going to deal with people's churches. What? Aquí, right here, guys. Shh, listen, right here. His laws, his ministry. Where? Here. That's. I have a knife because I'm a Puerto Rican. Shh. See, Jesus says, this is good, and it was God. There's a new covenant, guys. And stand to your feet. We're going to wrap this up. And and next week, we're going to talk about the difference between, listen, horizontal morality versus vertical morality. Something happened in that season that it would never happen now in this season. What was the new commandment, guys? What was the new commandment? Come on.
One another.
As what? That's the new standard. Close your eyes. Thank you, Robert. Close your eyes, guys. Close your eyes. All eyes closed. All eyes closed. Stop sitting around picking and choosing these scriptures to cripple people, to trample over people, to give people a yoke that Jesus has already freed them from. Stop it. The requirement to show the world that you are his followers is to love one another as he has loved.
Thank you again for checking out our podcast. If you would like to find information about who we are or how to donate so that we can keep doing what we're doing, please check us out at www.scarletnote.org. See you next time.